There are game soundtracks out there which are universally panned, like Crazy Bus. Then there are those which are universally loved, like Super Metroid or Final Fantasy VII. Some game soundtracks, however, seem to end up in both camps, equally hated by parts of the gaming community and loved by other parts. The soundtracks on that list are exactly that. They are the Marmite of the gaming music landscape. Welcome to my top 5 love it or hate it game soundtracks. The Sonic series as a whole can really embody this list. Pretty much everyone loves the soundtracks to Sonic 1 and 2 on the Mega Drive, and pretty much everyone hates the soundtrack to Sonic R. But Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 are another matter. For this list, I went with Sonic Adventure 2. Opinion on Adventure 2 seems more divided than the first, not because of the style of music per se, but I think because it's more catchy. It's easier for both sides of the camp to remember it. The one track that embodies the difference of opinion in this game most is Escape from the City.
Rolling around at the speed of sound, got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Can't stick around, have to keep moving on. Guess what lies ahead? Only one way to find out. Must keep on moving ahead. No time for guess.
I think the reason this sort of music divided fans was that it was such a radical departure from the original Mega Drive classics, which many people knew best, as there wasn't any widely played main Sonic games between Sonic & Knuckles and Sonic Adventure. It changes from a bouncy, arcadey tunes to soft pop rock, featuring the sort of lyrics which embody the Sonic of the era. It also symbolises the overall change Sonic was going through, as he was now appearing in far more contemporary scenarios, with a higher emphasis on narrative and storytelling, and was clearly targeted more towards older teenagers than children. Personally, I have to say I quite like the music in this game. Sure, it's cheesy as hell and not good if you separate it out from the game, but then again it's incredibly catchy, and whatever you think about the direction the games took, it definitely fits the tone and mood they were trying to set. The KATAMARI series is one in which the player starts off small and eventually rolls up any and all objects until they become gigantic. That sort of concept doesn't lend itself well to traditional video game scores, so it makes sense that the developers would go for something a little different. The Katamari soundtracks are some of the most unique in gaming, and for that reason they are bound to have controversial opinions. It's incredibly Japanese in tone, usually featuring Japanese singers, with a big variety of musical styles, from folky songs to soft jazz and pop and everything in between. Some people absolutely hate this sort of soundtrack, feeling that it doesn't fit gaming and that it's just a bit too cutesy and different for them. Personally, I love it. The music in the game fits the game perfectly, and it's great to listen to on its own. I think that having something a little different every now and then is a great thing, but I can understand why some people may not like it. The F-Zero series has some of the best music in gaming, and any of the tracks from the SNES games are classics in their own right. When a series has such an excellent legacy, any differ from the norm is bound to cause issues. Most of the music starts off well enough, featuring a similar sort of high-paced, rocky style the series are known for. It then, however, goes downhill when people start to sing.
In this world you've got to be strong. You've got to fight to keep your spirit alive.
If there's any trend at all in this video, it's that there is a section of gamers which don't like singers in game music. Either that, or they specifically don't like bad singers. It's a cheesy soundtrack which doesn't always fit the pace of the game and can actually be a little distracting. Personally, I sympathise with the gamers who aren't fond of this soundtrack. I agree with them. It's just not for me. It doesn't trigger the sort of involuntary reaction that an awesome soundtrack does. I hear it, and all I want to do is turn down the volume, change the music, and play the game to a better soundtrack. There probably isn't a game series which more embodies the spirit of this list than Xenoblade. Every game in the series seems to either be loved or hated by gamers due to the unique combat system and open world mechanics, and this indeed carries over to the music. I think that many people don't like songs with vocals, and although the music is pretty epic, don't feel that it works in a big RPG like this. Personally, I don't know what they're talking about. I think this is an epic soundtrack, embodying the very best of what game music can offer. It's unique, sounds great, and it's put together in such a way that each area and moment really has its own feel. I think it's a soundtrack that really embodies the spirit of such an epic, open-ended adventure, and on this one, I'm firmly on Team Love.
Select your hero.
You all knew this one was coming. There is not one game soundtrack ever released that has caused more polarisation than the soundtrack to Marvel vs. Capcom 2. To understand why, I think you have to delve into what fighting game fans are used to. I'm going to do a little comparison of some iconic fighting game soundtracks previous to Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and you'll understand instantly why some gamers may have had an aversion to this soundtrack. As you can see, the pumping beats of yesteryear have been replaced by jazz music that wouldn't sound out of place in an upscale wine bar rather than a fighting game, and this of course meant many gamers were not happy. There are debates happening to this day about whether or not this was a good move. Capcom clearly took a risk with this soundtrack, and in some ways it paid off. These love it or hate it soundtracks cause a lot of debate, and by default that means they are talked about a lot, even to this day. I really like the soundtrack. Yes, it's not like other fighting games, but I think that's a good thing. It's a breath of fresh air, and I get just as much satisfaction fighting alongside these jazzy tunes as I do any chiptune. For many gamers, this is simply not the case. They felt it was so out of place that it was distracting. Music is incredibly subjective, and it's hard to explain why something appeals to you and doesn't to another person. Whilst I feel F-Zero GX's tunes are out of place, others don't, just like how those are reversed for this track. As gamers, I think we should applaud these soundtracks. Each one of them took a risk in one way or another and tried to bring something new to the table, rather than simply sticking with the old ways. Sure, it doesn't always work, but if nobody takes risks, then there won't be any advancement. So that was my top 5. What games did I miss that have soundtracks that caused polar opposite opinions? And for the soundtracks I listed, do you love them or hate them? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I would very much be appreciative if you decided to share, like or subscribe. Goodbye!